Okay, good morning, everyone. It is, I think, May 27th, so it's Thursday. Technically, I guess, third day of class. So I want to start going over the chapters for you to review. I'll go over and discuss some of them and kind of give you an idea what would be a testable question or what you should glean out of the chapter. So I'm hoping that everyone has gotten to the icebreaker discussion. Just basically introduce yourself, kind of tell me and the rest of the class why you're taking this course, why you're taking nutrition, why you're taking it online. Obviously, right now, with the environment factors, we really can't have class in person, but a lot of students choose to pick an online course, maybe because it works in your schedule, you have children, or right now, everything's so scrambled. People are scrambling for daycare and things like that. So just kind of explain why you're taking it online. Also want to know why you're taking this particular course. Right? So for myself, this is nutrition, a personal approach. So we're in a little bit about science as far as nutrition, some testable things you can use in the future. But really, this course, I've kind of designed it. You're going to get college credit for it, so three college credits. But I really want you to start thinking about what you're eating, why you're eating it, what you're choosing to put in your body. So remember that food basically can do one of two things. It can either heal you or harm you. So you have to decide what you're doing. So if you want to have a donut, if you're from the Buffalo area, people are lining up at Paula's Donuts. I teach at a sport in West Seneca at Southgate Plaza, and as I leave around 7 a.m., there are people lined up outside of Paula's Donuts to have a donut, which is fine. So if you choose to have a donut, just consciously decide that you're going to have a donut. All right. But if you want to overindulge, that's up to you. But please realize what you're consuming as far as fat, refined flour, which is going to strip with anything nutritious, sugar. So whatever, we'll get into that during the course. So decide what you want to put in your body. If it's an occasional thing, that's fine. If it's something that you want to eat all the time, it's up to you. When I go shopping, I kind of look in people's carts and think, why are you eating that, or why would you pick that item? You just spent, I don't know, $3 or $4 on a bag of Cheetos or potato chips. So you just spent $4 on a bag of processed empty calories, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. Or you could go to the perimeter of the store and pick fruits or vegetables or a salad mix. Sorry, I guess my allergies are really acting up today. So that's your $4. You can decide to buy produce, which is not taxable, or you can buy that $4 bag of empty calories, which is taxable. All right. So either one is relatively easy to eat. Whether you want to rinse your vegetables off or fruit or vegetables, that's up to you, depending on where they came from or whatever. That's neither here nor there at the moment. So kind of decide that. So we're going to open up discussion 1 tomorrow. I think it's open tomorrow. So that'll be on food prepping. So decide what you want to do. And I get food prepping is one of it, reading food labels. So we really want you to consciously start thinking about what you're eating, why you're eating it, and are you checking food labels, and check serving size. If a serving size is, you look at a box of something and it says serving size is 2, but you've eaten the whole box, or you look at some kind of some item and it says, this is supposed to serve 4. Maybe 4 hobbits. It depends on, the labeling. So decide consciously what you're going to be eating or deciding to pick. And think about food prepping as far as, do you want to go to a fast food restaurant and literally spend, I don't eat there very often, very, very rarely. So do you want to spend $9 on a chicken sandwich, a burger or whatever, and some fries and soda? Or do you want to go to, if you're from the area, Wegmans, and go to their buffet area and pick out something to take? Or do you want to prep everything on Sunday and break it down into portion sizes and consume that, bring it with you, so now you don't actually have to leave anywhere? You already portion sized what you're going to eat. You've already decided what you're going to eat. You know how it was cooked. You know the nutritional value in that. So basically just some thoughts that I had that I wanted to get out there. So please be in discussion. It's literally a big chunk of your grade. And in the course, we're going to have a midterm reflection and a final reflection. And in those, there's a gradable portion. So read your rubrics for discussion and reflection. So don't tell me, oh, I didn't know, or why did I only get a 60 on this, or something. So look, get in your discussion, discuss things with your classmates, and for your reflection, there's a component in there where I want you to go in and tell me what you learned, what you thought was important. You can tell me what you thought was stupid, whatever. But how did your discussion, how did that classmate teach you something or mention something you hadn't thought of, or what connection did you have, or did it give you a paradigm shift on how you think about something? All right. The course is very intense as far as time. The course is not hard. All right. So it should be interesting. We'll make it as user friendly as possible, but start getting in discussion, get in the habit of being in discussion. And while I'm on the subject, for discussion, I don't want you to read the question and give me some 4-sentence garbage that you got out of the textbook or you copied and pasted out of Wikipedia. All right. And the other thing that a lot of students do is they wait till the very last day and they just randomly throw something up. But meanwhile, 5 other people have discussed that already. So that tells me one of many things. Number one, you didn't bother to go and read the discussion. So you have no idea what was already talked about. And you looked at your calendar or whatever and said, oh, wait, discussion closes in 30 minutes. I better get in there and put something up there. All right. So if you're posting a discussion a day or two before it closes, it's completely pointless. That's the same as getting to class 5 minutes before we dismiss the class. It's really pointless. So get in discussion and really start discussing things, your opinions, and share something new. No one wants to read the same thing over and over again. If someone was talking about vitamin A or vitamin B or vitamin D or vitamin K for blood clotting, or I'm choosing to prep this in my Instapot or whatever, think about a question. Don't just ask a question and then leave the discussion. So if somebody has something that you find interesting, do a little more research and post on that. All right, so be active. You don't have to come to class. You don't really have to, there's not a lot of homework other than discussion. So let's put a little effort into it. And I read the rubric because I will be very strict on the rubric. The first time around, I might say, please be in discussion more often, please be in discussion earlier, or give us a little bit more complete idea on that. I'm also a bit of a stickler on grammar and mechanics because this is an online course. Please don't use text language. People, I don't want to judge people, but people consciously or subconsciously are judging you on your grammar. All right. So, make a little effort in your grammar, your presentation, and the discussion. And it's up to you. And the course is yours to do whatever you want. So you get out of it whatever you put into it. And, I can pretty much tell if you're even trying or remotely trying. All right, so I will stop babbling about that. So I want to just really quickly go over Unit 1, give an idea of what I'll be asking you as far as the testing of the course. There's 4 units, 4 tests. So I'll break them all down. By the way, the test will be randomly generated, so that means that no two people are getting the same questions. So just so that we're clear on that. Also, in discussion, I will safe assign every single discussion. So if I find that you plagiarize this or copied and pasting something, you'll get a 0 for the discussion, and at my discretion, I may fail you for the course. It's in the syllabus. Read the syllabus. You're supposed to be acknowledging that you read it. All right, so this is college. This isn't high school. Not everyone gets a trophy for just attending. All right, so you're taking this for college credit. So let's put a little effort into it. All right. So food is more than something you eat. So a lot of people say, I'm taking nutrition. I just kind of want to know nutrition. Now that kind of means diet, what I'm eating, blah, blah, blah. I'm sitting on the couch eating whatever, watching, mindlessly eating something. All right. So the course is going to be a little bit more about that. So we're learning about genetic modification of food. So we'll have a discussion of that at the end. And please don't tell me that genetic modification is the same as hybrid or selective breeding. Absolutely not. If you tell me that in a discussion, I'll know that you have no idea what you're talking about, and you clearly only clicked on genetically modified organisms, and you read the first thing that popped up, which is telling you that genetically modified organisms are fantastic and they're going to feed the whole world, and we use less pesticides, and they use less water or whatever. So those things that I just said may or may not be true. All right. Okay, so why are we learning about nutrition? So a lot of you are learning about nutrition because you wanted to, or you needed an elective biology course, and you thought, well, human biology is kind of boring, or something. Well, I'll just take nutrition; it's super easy. Whatever your rationale is behind it. And also in discussion, tell me why you picked this course. So a lot of students will say, I picked your course because my friend told me that it was interesting, or we learned about genetically modified organisms, we learned about pesticides, we learned about whole food vitamins, or whatever the point is that you learned it. And I'm not going to be a stickler on memorizing minimum requirements of vitamins or whatever. So let's just get a general knowledge of nutrition and just at least start thinking about healthier choices and how would you apply that to your family, friends, career, whatever. Okay, so we're going to find some key terms in the module, and then just kind of think about leading causes of death. And whether you believe me or not, or whatever, we're supposed to have the best healthcare system in the world. Now, Canada's probably pretty close. All right, but we also probably have the highest mortality rate, or we're actually, in my opinion, we're the sickest population out there. So we have, more food than we can eat. So we're overfed and undernourished. All right. And please don't tell me, well, you can tell me in discussion that you need GMOs to produce food because the world population is starving. All right. So there really is not a problem with food. There's enough food on the planet for everyone, more than enough food. The problem is distribution and getting it to the people. All right. So when we start talking about that, just realizing some of these India and these other countries, I'll get into it later again if I remember, but they're, Monsanto or these other companies are going in India and saying, well, here, these are GMO crops, here's your farmland, you'll raise all this money, you'll be super wealthy, we'll industrialize your whatever, but there's people that they lose everything if they have a bad crop. They're in debt to Monsanto, and there are people that literally, not to get morbid, but there's people that literally kill themselves because they lost everything they had. And before that, the farmland, they were able to raise food on their own. They didn't need to industrialize it. So, well, I'm going to digress, so I'll just keep going with that. All right, so let's identify some of the risk factors in food, and we'll talk this this semester on irritable bowel syndrome and Crohn's disease, and then there's a big flare up of it. It's really, really, really prevalent now. So what are some of the factors? And we'll talk about antigens, antibodies, allergic reactions. We'll talk about Roundup and the food supply, Roundup in the soil, and how these plants are absorbing it and how it's causing leaky gut, inflammation of the gut, leading to a lot of these diseases that are becoming very prevalent. And we'll also talk about, how we're putting all these chemicals into the soil and we're killing the microbiome. We're killing all the normal bacteria that are nitrogen fixators that actually attach nitrogen to the roots of the soil. And realize too that the nutritional value of the food now is about a fourth of what it was in the 20s and 30s. And so the agricultural revolution, we're producing more food, but we're over planting things. We're not doing crop rotation. The soil is very depleted. So things are growing. They might be bigger and greener and than they used to be, but they're really, really technically nutrition void compared to what we used to have. Right. Right. So we'll learn a bit about nutrients. Excuse me, nutrition. Diet is really, it's what you eat. It's not, we'll talk about Atkins diet, we'll talk about intermittent fasting, we'll talk about keto diets. That's a diet phase. So your diet is what you eat, or we'll realize that we generally eat the same things over and over again, which is fine, but we're going to hopefully learn about throwing a little variety in there, hopefully getting into more fresh fruits and vegetables and a little bit more fiber rather than eating industrialized, refined carbohydrates and pasta and bread. And you guys may think I'm crazy, but like I said, I grew up on an organic farm in the country in the mid to late 70s, early 80s. Okay, so that's the time span when it was, prevalent. We used to get Prevention magazine about organic farming, but people would think that we were crazy, right? But I guess not so much. And then we'll really talk about a lot of these chronic diseases, and a lot of these things can be traced back to diet. There's people that were ill or sick, and if they took the time and effort to go in and really decide what they're eating and change their diet, a lot of times people become much healthier. Their skin is better, their hair is better, their sleep is better, energy level is better, things like that. All right, so risk factors for health obviously are smoking, carcinogens, poison, toxins, pesticides on your food, Roundup in your soil, exposure to, even cell phones and 5G, dirty electric, the energy fields and the electrical wires. Not to get all crazy, but age is another factor too. So realize the super young or the relatively elderly population are more of a risk factor. And those of you who like to eat hot foods and a lot of these other things, or drink alcohol a lot, realize as you get older, there's a limitation of matter. So your liver can only process so much if it gets overloaded. Your mucosa of your stomach can only regenerate so much. And as you get older, that regenerative process really, really slows down. So you'll realize, say, well, in my 20s or whatever, I could eat whatever and get 5 hours of sleep and go. In your, late 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, that may not be the case. Environmental conditions, if you're in a really, really toxic environment as far as the city, with a lot of pollution, or if you're living, people can say I'm crazy, if you want to live under power lines, or if that's where you happen to live, or when I was a kid, Bethlehem Steel was going, and just driving down Route 5, it's closed now, but there would be so much smog, sometimes you couldn't see the road, all right? And I used to always ask my parents, like, why are these people hanging their laundry out when people used to do that? Because it's got to be full of soot. Well, what's the point? Right? Lifestyle. So what is your lifestyle? Are you gonna wake up, grab a Danish and a cup of coffee, or are you gonna wait in line for 20 minutes to go to Tim Hortons and spend $12 for a cup of coffee and an egg, ham and egg biscuit or whatever they serve there? I don't eat that stuff. So whatever. Or is your diet composed of fast food? Are you going and just grabbing anything just because you didn't meal plan or you were hungry and you just grab the nearest thing? So now there's, depending on where you're taking the course from, there's Core Life, there's all kinds of healthier alternatives, right? You can even get a reasonably healthy salad at a lot of these fast food chains. But please also realize, if you really look at the caloric intake of that salad, as far as the dressing and things like that, probably has more calories than the number 3 with the French fries. And unless there's mescaline or some kind of nutritional lettuce in there, if you're eating, it's all iceberg lettuce, that has the same nutritional value as a glass of water, right? It has a tiny bit of fiber, which I guess is good, right? So talk a little bit about just basic nutrition. So we'll talk about caloric content, what's highest in energy, between proteins, fats, carbohydrates. Alcohol actually has caloric calories in it, but it has no nutritional value. So you could, some of you don't believe it, but you can live without alcohol. Okay. So we'll talk about some phytochemicals. So these would be things that are antioxidants that could start warding off cancer or free radicals. And if free radicals are floating around your body, they're going to be stealing electrons from the orbits of other things, and it can cause a lot of cancerous or detrimental things. I won't go into the science of that, but just kind of realize, why we're taking antioxidants, or why you're taking vitamins and minerals. And if you guys want to talk about some of the think that the next chapter we'll talk about the specific vitamins. But if you want to research fractionalized vitamins from over the counter, or even GNC doesn't really have whole food vitamins. So whole food vitamins are actually come from whole food vitamins, from plant material or animal material that haven't been separated, broken down, and then remixed together. So a lot of these fractionalized vitamins, it can have vitamin D or whatever, but sometimes it's not bioavailable, which means your body doesn't recognize it and it can't absorb it. Or if it's missing something, if it's missing a component, your body's missing, if your vitamin has magnesium in it, you can't absorb it, and your body needs magnesium for something else, it'll start stealing it from other parts of your body. All right. So there's case studies on people that actually got sicker by taking fractionalized vitamins. All right. So you can take whatever, I guess taking a vitamin supplement if you need it, it's better than not taking it. But please realize your best source of vitamins would be from the food you eat. All right. So if you're eating healthy food, you should have all the vitamins and minerals you need, even though our food is much more nutritionally void than it used to be. All right, so nutrition classes. So we'll talk about these separately going forward. But carbohydrates, all right, carbs, there's a lot of talk on that. They will contribute to lipids and fat. Please realize, in my opinion, I guess, excess carbohydrates, if the body can't burn them or use them, they literally are stored as lipids in your fat cells. So I'm just going to say that and leave it like that. A lot of people still have the mentality that fat makes you fat, and they'll literally buy fat-free something. So if you are going to fall for that marketing where it's fat-free, please realize, if you look at food labels, and if you don't believe me, prove me wrong, look at a food label and you realize that the low-fat option always has a higher caloric amount of carbohydrates. because they take the fat out, but they have to put something in so it's palatable and eat it, right? And the one that kills me is fat-free cream or half and half. So cream is literally the milk fat. So I don't know how you could have fat-free cream. It doesn't make it, it short circuits my brain. I don't understand. Right. So fats or lipids, when people say fat makes you fat, fat doesn't make you fat. Please realize fat has the highest energy per gram. All right, and your body needs fat for your biphospholipid. Right there, it says lipid. Biphospholipid layer makes up the surrounding of every cell of your body, and that biphospholipid layer is what regulates what comes in and out of your body. So it's very important that that is functioning and functioning properly. And I don't know if it was 10 or 15 years ago, McDonald's changed a lot of fast food restaurants changed the fats they were deep frying their French fries and things in because it was trans fats. And they were realizing people were getting sick from trans fats because the body was using these trans fats for their biphospholipid layer, and it was not regulating what comes in and out of the cell as well as a normal or saturated fat did. And we'll have a discussion on saturated or trans fats or all these different fats. And I'll give you the argument about saturated fats, like from animal products. Some people will tell you it's horrible and terrible. I eat them. It's about all I consume. I'm 58 and really have never really been sick, so that's just my opinion. All right, so we'll talk about some proteins. Some people will tell you that your body, if you starve yourself, your body will use proteins for energy. That is true, but only as a very, very last resort. Your body wants to save protein for making enzymes or cell repair. It doesn't want to use those for energy. Your body's going to use carbohydrates first, then it's going to use glycogen from your liver. Your body will take your excess carbohydrates. Whatever it doesn't use, it'll put in it'll condense it more or less for stored energy in your liver. This glycogen, that's like a 48-hour supply if you need to. After that, it'll start burning your fats. That's the key to the ketone diet, Atkins, South Beach, intermittent fasting, so you want keto diet, or whatever fat there is. So it's going to start using your lipids. It'll start burning your body fat. Then, as a very, very last resort, it'll start breaking down proteins. All right, and we'll talk about if you use up all the proteins in your body, they'll start taking the protein out of your blood, and then you'll start having edema, and we'll talk about that too. All right. So vitamins, minerals, and water. So minerals you really need for a lot of the body processes. Vitamins, we'll go over them briefly. I'll just ask you the importance of, A, B, C, D, K, water soluble, fat soluble. We'll just some real basics on that. It's not a biochem course, and it's really not nutrition for healthcare workers. It's going to be a basic nutrition course. Water, the importance of water is really underestimated, and I'm talking about clean water, not tap water with chemicals and all the pharmaceuticals that people flush down their toilet. So either filtered water or reverse osmosis, some pure clean water. And then organic nutrients. So organic is anything that has carbon in it. So carbohydrates are really your source of energy for your body. Your body really wants to run on carbohydrates. Your brain will run on it. Your muscles run on it. A lot of your muscles don't really need insulin for that, but we'll discuss that coming up. Yeah, your body wants to really use carbohydrates. And your brain uses more than any other organ. And even if you're doing this low carb diets, your body will conserve all the carbohydrates for your brain. The rest of your body will run on ketones, and we'll discuss that when we start talking about the different diets. So lipids are sources of energy. All right, cellular development. I just said that you need this for your biphospholipid layer of your cell. Physical growth and development. Please realize the myelin sheaths that are part of your nervous system need lipids for the nodes of Vernier and how to send neurological signals to your muscles rapidly. So that's a component. Your body does need lipids. So these fat-free diets, you can do whatever you want. It's your body. It's your DNA. You make your own decisions. But I'll just give you some ideas or thoughts. If you don't believe me, Google search it or whatever. Prove me wrong. Let me know. Proteins are production of structural functions and components. Your body really wants to conserve proteins for nucleotides and building blocks through ribosomes, making energy. Making enzymes and structural components and replication of your cells. So your epithelial cells, hair, skin, digestive tract, really just for structure. It's the building blocks, more or less. The maintenance of body processes through enzymes, immune functions. If you want to make immunoglobulin or antibodies, you need protein. Fluid balance regulates fluid balance along with sodium. Your book says source of energy. So I'm going to say they're not completely wrong, but that would not be their major function at all. So theoretically or technically, I'm going to say yes, but in my thought process, no. All right, so vitamins, regulation of body processes, maintenance of immune function, production and maintenance of tissues, and production against agents that can use cellular components. So free radicals, vitamins are going to be used, riboflavin and things like that are going to be used for a lot of these cell processes, energy production, moving, transport of things in and out of cells, and a lot of biological functions. All right, but vitamins really don't give you energy. People drink a Rockstar or say, oh, vitamin B gives you energy. Well, vitamin B doesn't give you energy, but it does help run the Krebs cycle, which is what produces the majority of the ATP or adenosine triphosphate that your body uses as its energy currency, right? So minerals, regulation of body processes. So whether that's calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, or, if we're putting, calcium for bone production, regulation of neurological impulses, vitamin D, we need that to regulate calcium. We'll talk about vitamin D production, vitamin D1 through the skin and sunlight, vitamin D2 in the liver, and then finally vitamin D3 calcitriol in the kidney, all right, which is the only usable bioavailable source of vitamin D, by the way. So, sorry, I keep saying structural and functional components of various substances and tissues for minerals necessary for physical growth, maintenance, and development. So later on, we'll talk about people that are having deficiency of vitamin D, getting rickets, or we can talk about thyroid deficiencies with iodine, with cretinism or hypothyroidism, myxedemia, some of these other things. All right, and water, completely undervalued or underestimated, and please realize that the majority of the population is walking around dehydrated. All right, and all it takes is the loss of 2% of body fluid to be considered dehydrated. All right, and we'll talk about some of the factors of that when we talk about water towards the end. So water is really important for regulating your body temperature through sweat, elimination of waste through urine, and you do need some water in your digestive tract for motility. And if your large intestine's working, it'll reabsorb the majority of that water. But unless you're sick and you eat something that's not good, your body can have an abort mission, 20 minutes after you eat it, and then you're going to realize you're going to be flushing that stuff out as fast as possible. So just rehydrate. So getting sick, throwing up, or having diarrhea doesn't really mean you're sick. It actually means you're healthy because your body is saying, wait a minute, that's not right. I'm going to throw that up. I don't want to send that through all the way through to the processing plant. Or if it gets past your stomach and you're starts wreaking havoc in your digestive system, your digestive system say, wait a minute, this is not a good situation. Just purge this out. We'll try again later. All right. So nutrients and their major functions. So just basically, kind of what I stated, we'll go over it again. So cells and cell metabolism. So metabolism, if I ask you a question on what is metabolism? Metabolism is all the chemical reactions in your body. So that means brain function, muscle function, heart function, any of the cellular processes. If your body's making ATP, or if your muscles are contracting, your liver is detoxifying things through the hepatocytes. If your gallbladder is contracting and releasing bile, your liver is making the bile to store it in the gallbladder. Your pancreas is releasing digestive enzymes or insulin to regulate your blood sugar. These are all the chemical reactions. So, people say, well, I have a slow metabolism. Okay, we'll talk about that too. That's hyperthyroidism, or, maybe you're just not active enough, right? Energy generation through either carbohydrates or lipids, protein if we actually have to. But we'll talk about the mitochondria, the Krebs cycle briefly, and how your body generates energy, ATP, adenosine triphosphate, to run all of your metabolic processes in your body. Protein production to the liver. So your digestive system is going to break down all of these components and these proteins into very, very small nucleotides through the hepatic portal system. They're going to go to your liver. Your liver is going to reprocess these and reassemble these tiny, tiny nucleotides into whatever protein you need, whether it's going to be an enzyme or some other kind of immunoglobulin, some other kind of protein structural unit in your body. And then waste elimination, so either through urine, which is gonna flush your or cleanse your blood, it kind of filters your blood, or your digestive tract, your liver is going to do some detoxification. We'll touch on all these briefly throughout this semester. All right. So energy suppliers, I'm still going to argue about the protein thing, but theoretically it would. Korsakoff syndrome and some of these other starvation diseases, your body will use protein if it absolutely has to. So energy suppliers would be fats is listed first because it has 9 kilocalories per gram, and then carbohydrates have a second largest. Protein, alcohol has a relatively large component of energy, but once again, that's empty caloric intakes. Just it has no nutritional value at all. Right. So your macro means big. The things you need to consume the majority of would be carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. So you can look at my plate, or some of the, some will say 40, 30, 30, or 60, 40, or 60, 30, 10, or whatever the component, however they want to break that down, depending on whether you're talking about a European diet, Mediterranean diet, the American diet, which there isn't really a specific diet. You can talk about an Asian diet, you can talk about a Hispanic diet, without saying, someone's racist. We're just saying, well, different colors or different cultures or different ethnicities, they have culturally they have different foods that they enjoy eating, or they may have been raised on. Or we'll talk a little bit about vegetarianism and how you'd have to mix rice and beans together to get all of the essential micronutrients and nutrients you need for your body to produce all of the things it needs to produce. All right, and we'll talk about micronutrients, which are just smaller amounts. So vitamins and minerals, we don't have to consume massive amounts of that. And then water soluble, we have to consume more often because you're flushing that out with your urine. Fat soluble is stored in fat, A, D, E, and K, so they don't have to consume those as often because we can store those if we need to. And then water. Water doesn't really produce any energy, but your water is needed for every single metabolic process, whether we're breaking something down or building it up. So we're going to have dehydration synthesis or hydrolysis. All right, hydrolysis means we're breaking something apart with water. Dehydration synthesis means we're making something. So we're going to pull water, H from one thing, OH from another. We're going to put two components together for that. So food energy, so start reading food labels, realizing, what you're eating, or how did they come up with this, how many calories are in whatever this portion size of 3/4 of a pickle, or, this candy bar is supposed to serve 2 people, or whatever the food label is saying. How do they derive the caloric component of that? Well, for every gram of carbohydrates, that's 4 kilocalories. Every gram of protein, same thing, 4 kilocalories. I said before, fat has the highest caloric content at 9.
Danielle Franklin.
All right, and alcohol is at 7, but that's empty calories. All right, so estimate the number of kilocalories in a serving of food that contains. All right, so if it's carbohydrates, you're going to multiply it by whatever number that was, fat by whatever number that was, and protein. So, 4, 9, and 4. So you'll get some component of that on an exam. So you just have to figure the math of that. Right. I don't know if this is working in the PowerPoint, but if you bought the Connect system or whatever, it doesn't work in the PowerPoint. You can you can build a sandwich and it'll kind of tell you the amount of calories if you want to play around with that. I think it's a little juvenile for myself, but you could say, well, cheese, could say that's a fat, right? So how many grams of, how much does that weigh? And then how many kilocalories are in that? How much is in the bun, which is carbohydrate, protein, fat. That should have almost no calories. So essential nutrients would be like your water, vitamins. These are essential, and all of these things are essential. So we'll be talking a little bit about these amino acids, so whether they're essential or non-essential. So non-essential, we can get it, our body can make it. Essential, we literally have to consume it. So if we don't consume it, we'll have deficiency and we'll have a problem with metabolism. So if we were talking about antimicrobials or whatever, if we could make sure that a certain microorganism didn't have one of its essential nutrients or one of its essential nutrients, we could stop production of a certain phase of their metabolism, and eventually they would die. That's how we could do that. We want proof of that. But we'll talk about vitamin A, and we'll ask you, basically what function does it serve? If it's say on night blindness or whatever. Vitamin B would be, or theoretically, they help you with energy production. But each one of these has specific function. B3, B2, B1, B9, folic acid, very, very important for DNA synthesis, especially for women if they are pregnant. Immediately, the neurological system is one of the first to generate. So if there's a deficiency of folic acid, you can have a lot of birth defects, spina bifida, cleft palate, things like that. Right? Vitamin C, you've all heard of that. So when we talk about that, we talk about scurvy, or it's very, very big for collagen production. All right, so like pre-surgery, if you're gonna have surgery, loading up on whole food sources of vitamin C can help with scarring, diminish scarring. All right, so minerals, some of your basic minerals, some of these you've probably heard of. We'll talk about just the major ones, all right, what their functions or uses. And then these proteins are amino acids that we need as essential, which means we have to consume them. So any of these, if you're deficient in these, it can start causing some of the diseases. So if you were deficient in vitamin B1 or B2 or niacin or vitamin A, what would be some of the diseases like vitamin K? You didn't have vitamin K, you wouldn't be able to clot blood. You'd bleed to death. Vitamin E is really important for cell membrane function. Vitamin D is for bone and mineralization of bones. So non-nutrients. All right, so plants, I don't know if I agree with that completely. Plants do have some nutritional value in it, specifically fiber, which is really good for your digestive system. Alcohol, like I said, that's a non-nutrient. Phytochemicals and antioxidants, we'll be talking about that. It's in your book. It's going to help you with free radicals and just keeping you healthier. Right, here's a list of phytochemicals. So these are things that are found in foods, and I'm talking about whole foods, not your Cheetos or potato chips or whatever that stuff is that people buy. And the only thing that's healthy here, remotely healthy here in any of these vending machines would be, I guess I'd have to say maybe the beef jerky, maybe the peanuts, and maybe the cashews. Possibly gummies because there's, I guess, some gelatin in there. But other than that, there's nothing in the vending machines that is healthy, and I doubt there's any phytochemicals in any of that packaged food. So phytochemicals you really need from natural sources. So just start thinking about what you're eating, and like nightshade vegetables, or start picking up vegetables for different colors and make sure they're not I'm not going to say they have to be organic, but make sure they're not diminished nutritional value. And don't always think, by the way, that fresh vegetables are going to be healthier than frozen vegetables, because a lot of times the vegetables that are on the they're out, they're going to say, oh, these are fresh, which means this just means they haven't been frozen. But those tomatoes could have been picked when they're orange and they turn red. All right. Or things can be picked before their time, when they could be a couple days to a week old. Now, frozen vegetables generally are picked when they're ripe and they are processed right away, like within a day. All right. So, and they're frozen. So theoretically, they could be, in some cases, a healthier option. All right. The least healthy option is canned. And I'm not going to say I don't eat canned food. I happen to like canned spinach, and some of these are, and sauerkraut obviously is fermented. But canned food is good, and you should always have some of it in case, whatever, just in case. Just have some food on the shelf. All right. So supplements, we will talk about those when we get into specific vitamins. So vitamins, minerals, herbs, plants, amino acids. Your book really talks about marketing and commercials. A lot of this could be a ploy. It's over the counter. There's really nobody regulating them. Huge industry. And you guys can do whatever you want. I certainly wouldn't go to the store and buy the cheapest vitamin out there. I wouldn't be getting my vitamins from the dollar store. I personally use standard process, all whole food vitamins. Definitely pricier than the other stuff, but I know it's bioavailable, so I know my body can actually use it. I could spend $7 on vitamin from Wegmans or Walmart or Target or whatever, or I could spend $9 at standard process, and I know that that is whole food. It hasn't been fractionalized, so my body actually will use it and absorb it. All right, so malnutrition. Like I said before, our population is overfed and undernourished. All right, and if you don't believe me, just this morning I was at gym, and I looked around and I thought, oh my God, no, they're here, they're trying. Okay, that's great. And then I went to Market and Square to get some things, and I was looking at the people in there, and I thought, oh my God, what's going on here? And then I was looking at their carts, and the guy in front of me bought this great big thing of jelly and this great big huge box of Entenmann's pastries, and I thought, you got to be kidding me! First thing in the morning, you're going to eat that. But maybe you had a business meeting or something. I don't know. I don't want to judge too much. But we have dietary inadequacy, so people are really not thinking, they're consciously thinking about what they're doing. And it may not be their fault. They may have never been taught, or maybe that's what their parents did. So hopefully by the end of the course, end of June, mid-June, you're going to start thinking, I have to consciously start deciding what I'm eating, and I'm going to start consciously applying what I'm learning to my family, myself, especially my kids. If you teach kids to eat properly, it'll be set in their mind for life. All right. So when I was a kid, there was no desserts. There was very little cereal. There was always cut fruits and vegetables in the refrigerator, no candy. And I remember, you guys are all too young to remember, but in the 70s, they used to have, they probably do now, they used to have like Captain Crunch and Quisp, and they used to have something called Mr. Wonderful Surprise or something. And my mother literally, got it for us for Saturday mornings or whatever. And she started reading the ingredients, and the first ingredient was sugar. Well, I remember watching her pour those boxes of cereal in the garbage, and we were looking like, what? We want those. They're so delicious. I still to this day remember standing in the kitchen watching her dump all that in the garbage and throw it out. All right. So dietary inadequacy, people don't know. Low income risk, people may not be able to afford organic food, but I want, my argument is going to be, like I said, you could go to McDonald's and buy all kinds of stuff off the dollar menu, or say, I can't afford anything, I have to get the dollar menu. So you just spend $1 on a soda, which was just sugar and chemicals, $1 on your cheeseburger, which was refined flour, whatever. You could have gone to the store and bought something and food prepped that, other than getting in your car and driving to the fast food window. But on the other side, you also have places which are called like food deserts, like a lot of these inner city, Chicago, or some of these, pick any really big inner city. All right. There may not be a grocery store for literally a mile. So there may only be a bodega, which is like a little store. There may only be, a Subway or a Wendy's or whatever. But now, hopefully, they'll be doing more moratoriums on that and say, you know what, you can't put another Kentucky Fried Chicken, you can't put another McDonald's. You have to put, if you want to put a restaurant, it's got to have some healthier options, right? We'll talk about eating disorders, whether you're overeating or undereating, bulimia, anorexia. People binge eat, they'll eat and they'll purge. Substance abuse, now whether that is cigarettes, cocaine, marijuana, whatever. But please also remember that you can start investigating this with a lot of these food suppliers, and there's really only 4 or 5 companies out there that control all of the food. So, Kraft or some of these other, Monsanto, some of these other large, Pfizer, these corporations, they really control the amount of food in the country. And please don't think for a second they're not putting chemicals or things in the food that may be addictive, right? And it may not be people's fault that they're consuming this food. And realize too that literally sugar is more addictive than nicotine and cocaine. All right. So there are laboratory experiments where they gave rats and mice water with cocaine in one and sugar in the other. And I think it was 90 something percent of the time, the rats and mice would pick the sugar water over the water with cocaine. It's more addictive. All right, people have medical issues. All right, so sometimes you have medical issues where you can't digest some things. That's a rarity. The other thing, let's let's not say that these medical issues couldn't have been derived, at least in part, by poor choices or people that were finding diabetes in this young population of kids. When I was in school, I'm still in school physically. Um, it was always age 40 or 50 would be the test question, metabolic syndrome or, diabetes. All right. But now we're finding it in 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year olds. And they're even started teaching that if you're going to start doing education or healthcare, we're seeing people that are overweight. And when I was young, a long time ago, I honest to God do not remember maybe one or possibly two people in my elementary school that were overweight. I mean, some people might be, you know, I don't use the word chunky, but sometimes as a young kid under the age of 10, you can do that. Or sometimes when people right before puberty, they gain a little bit of weight, but there was no morbid obesity when I was a kid. I honestly cannot say in the late 60s, early 70s. I don't remember any of that. But now we're seeing it prevalently, and it has to be diet. People are just eating um, more carbohydrates. And even if you go to a restaurant, you're going to see that, the plate they serve you is huge. I mean, people should be eating half of that. Or a lot of times, what flips me out is if they give me a plate of something and the whole entire plate is teeming with food. I can't eat that. You have to like spread that out. It literally gives me a panic attack to look at plate teeming with food. I can't even process that. Like it's spilling all over when you're going to eat it. And I said before, the undernutrition and overnutrition. All right. So like I said, people in this country generally um, are overweight but undernourished. Right? So we'll talk about really there's no good or bad foods. There's things that you want to eat in moderation. So there's no one who likes a strawberry, and I want to use the word milkshake um, more than me. You could go to um, McDonald's or whatever, and they literally legally have to call it a shake because I doubt there's any milk in it. It's probably emulsified chemicals. I'm not going to say I never ate one. I'm not going to say it's delicious, but I will consciously eat that, but it's not my first choice. I'd much rather go to if you guys are from Orchard Park or Buffalo, if you want to go to Taffy's in Orchard Park, probably the most fantastic milkshakes in the world, or go someplace where they're actually going to make you a milkshake with ice cream and milk and you know throw in a little processed sugar, whatever. So there's no good or bad foods um, per se, but I mean there are some things that I just wouldn't put in my body. Like I'm not going to say that Cheetos aren't delicious, but please realize that's just fried chemicals. Right? So if you're going to do that, do it occasionally, but please realize your body has to process that. It's just there's nothing good at it. All right, so variety, moderation, and balance are features of a healthy diet. I can't even stress enough variety, moderation, and balance. All right. So a lot of us, if you start thinking about it when you're doing meal prepping, you're going to realize you're pretty much buying the same things over and over again. So, great. If it's, chicken breast or meat or whatever, depending on what your spiritual or theoretical thoughts are on your health, vegetables, people generally tend to be creatures of habit. So just during the course or during the summer, let's just try to try something new. It's summer. Hopefully, we're going to be out more. So go to a farmer's market and grab something and try something you've never tried before. Try different fruits, different vegetables, and try fruits from other countries. Right? Food is the best source of nutrients and phytochemicals. Like I said, whole food is the best. Whatever you put in your mouth is going to heal you or harm you. And try to get things that are as fresh as possible. And if you can find organic, rationally or reasonably priced, get it. Sometimes they're smaller, but in the country, when I go camping, I pass this place, and I think it's Java or around East Aurora, Thorn Farm or whatever. But I go there and I grab whatever they have, and the difference in the taste of an apple from there and something I get at Tops or Walmart, even Wegmans, which is to me the gold standard of grocery stores. If you don't have a Wegmans, I feel bad for you. Even sometimes there, I mean, their food, they're pretty much top of the line, but sometimes I bite into something and I go, this thing has no taste and the texture's all bad. But if you get something organically grown from heritage seeds, you should notice a difference in taste. All right, if you don't, that just means you haven't experienced before, you're not adapted to that taste. So just be patient. There's no one size fits all diet, and foods and nutrients are not cure-alls. All right, so please don't. Some people say, well, I don't need to go to a doctor. I'll just eat healthier. I'm not going to say it'll cure everything, especially if you have a disease of like a dearth or shortage of a certain vitamin. That's possible. You definitely want to start reincorporating that, but I'm not going to say that this would take place of medical care by a licensed healthcare professional. So bad or junk food still contain nutrients. I'm going to use that word loosely. All right. Pies, donuts, ice cream, soft drinks, they still have some nutrients to them. I'm going to argue that pies and donuts, unless they're made with the whole wheat flour with the germ on it, are probably just, we take the wheat germ out and they just really get the endogerm, which is just literally just carbohydrates. So if you're eating white bread, it's just kind of flour, and you could take flour and water and make paste out of it, right? You strip the wheat germ off it, it's completely white. So if you're eating white bread, you're just really eating a bleach and glue sandwich, as far as I'm concerned. All right. So in these processed food, they're empty calories, and I'm not going to say that they didn't bleach that flour or they didn't use some kind of chemical to strip that. They look great, texture's great, but I would say it's probably not your healthiest choice. So bad foods, really bad foods would be toxic. So there are foods that are toxic. So if they're contaminated, if you have Staph aureus or something growing in your potato salad you left out in the summer, that's really, it's an food intoxication. So you're not getting an infection of staph. You're actually consuming their endotoxins that a lot of these gram-positive bacteria can excrete. So if it's multiplying in your digestive tract, it's excreting these toxins, endotoxins, which can make you very, very sick. So if it's contaminated with bacteria, viruses, microscopic animals, so it could be parasites, listeria from lunch meat. And listeria, by the way, can live in your refrigerator, and it can actually live in your ice cream. So it could be cholera, could be some kind of parasitic worm. We're not in micro class, so we won't get into the graphic details of that. This can lead to foodborne illness. And like I said, hopefully if you're healthy, you're going to throw that up or excrete it through diarrhea as fast as possible. So empty calorie foods would be high calories from unhealthy fats, added sugar or alcohol. And some of these sugar-free options have sorbitol in them, which is a sugar alcohol, things like that. So they're going to be empty. That can cause diarrhea, by the way. in large quantities. So there are high calorie, unhealthy foods. And I see, I see people going and eating candy bars or stuff. And, I really don't want to judge people. It's their choice and they don't know any better. But I see people that are so heavy they can't walk. They're on a cart, but as they're in the cart, they're grabbing things off the shelf. And by the way, if you're shopping, notice where they place all the food. Okay. So, in my opinion, you only go in the middle of the store, the shelves, if you need mustard, ketchup, maybe some coffee, maybe some, I don't know, tomato sauce, pickles or something. But I would never be shopping in the majority of the middle of the store, usually around the periphery and grabbing certain things off the middle. But I see people that are so heavy, like I said, they can't walk or they have trouble walking or they're clinically obese. And I look and there's a bag of Twizzlers, some M&Ms, some processed Little Debbie something in there. And I'm thinking, my God. But anyway, so these would all be poor sources of vitamins and minerals. So just empty calories. So look, if you're diabetic or hypoglycemic and you need a little bit of sugar, a bite of something is fine, not the entire box. So nutrient dense foods. So these would be foods that we really want to start, picking. So do you want a candy bar, a little tiny candy bar, or would you rather eat a quart of strawberries or something like that? So let's start picking foods that are nutrient dense rather than calorie dense. So high ratio of vitamins and minerals to calories, leafy greens. I don't agree with fat-free milk, but your book talks about it. That some people believe in that. I only drink whole milk and I don't drink glasses of it in my coffee or whatever. If I'm going to drink milk, it's got to be regular milk, but that's just me. And I grew up on a farm, so I just drank whole milk. Orange juice, lean meats, broccoli, whole grain cereal. So if you're going to have cereal, get a good granola that isn't loaded with sugar, because even a granola bar or some of these granola, they're just disguised candy. So a whole grain cereal, if you're going to feed your kids cereal or, Cheerios are always a good option. So if you want to carry Cheerios around for your toddler, that's great. It's better than giving them, I see parents in the store literally giving their kids cheese puffs or Cheetos. And I'm like, oh my God, why are you poisoning your kid? That should be child abuse. So nutrient density versus energy density. So let's just try to pick things that are just healthier. They have actually more nutritional value. Right? So there's kind of an example. So do you want the soda or do you want the glass of milk? All right. Both have amount of calories, more or less, but this one has protein. It's got some calcium, phosphorus. All right. It's got a little bit of vitamin B2 in it. All right. So they're both fluids, right? Both 8 ounces, but this one's no brainer, right? Okay. Yeah. Donut or a bunch of strawberries. So there's no perfect food. I guess if I had to pick the most perfect food, I guess I would say, an egg is not bad. Chicken breast is not bad. Eggs are not bad for you, by the way, even the yellow yolk with cholesterol. Your body needs cholesterol to make sex hormones, and we need it for stabilization of the biphospholipid layer. So please don't buy into this statin drugs. Oh, I shouldn't say that. I can't. Never mind. I didn't say that. But cholesterol. So you can consume it. If you don't consume it, your liver is going to produce it. It has to. You need it. It's a component. All right. I wouldn't say that you want to eat, 7 egg yolks a day, but moderation. So variety, reasonable amounts, balance. So caloric intake and physical activity. You can eat whatever you want, or even if we're talking about sodium, you can have as much salt as you want, as long as you're drinking enough fluid. And the other caveat is your kidneys have to be functioning. Right. But if you eat a lot of salt, waterfowl salt is going to increase your blood volume. That can increase your blood pressure if your kidneys are unable to regulate that. So there's a caveat there. Best sources of nutrients, variety of whole and minimally processed foods. All right, and once again, there's the wheat germ. All right, so if you're buying bleached white flour, you're eating, white bread from a store, or any processed food. They're stripping off any nutritional value. You're just eating the endosperm, which was basically there as energy for the plant when it starts germinating. So the plant needs it for energy, right, as it's germinating. But we should be eating the rest of this. So these flowers they're all grasses, right? They're there for energy. So even your whole wheat bread or some of these brown breads, some of these you have to look. You want to check for fiber content. They could just be adding caramelized color to make it look like it's healthier. So start really reading food labels. It takes a little bit longer, but after you start practicing it, you'll start learning what things you want to eat. All right. And sometimes it might cost a tiny bit more. All right. But it's healthier. So in the long run, you're going to be healthier, thinner. It pays. My grandma used to always tell me, whatever you don't pay to the grocer, you pay to the doctor. All right. So just worth to live by. So natural foods, plant foods, plant foods, if you're processing these, you're losing nutrients. And nutrient supplements, this you can start thinking about on your own. I mentioned a few things, but pills, powders, bars, wafers, beverages, just start thinking about these are probably all marketing ploys. All right. I was at the acupuncturist yesterday, and she told me I was tired. I was like, yeah, I could have told you that before I got in here. But she learned these things in China, so she has a lot. Well, she's got 2 doctorates, so she's got a lot of knowledge on whole food and a lot of these vitamins. And the ancient cultures. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say anything bad about science, but some of these ancient cultures actually, through trial and error, they may have known what they were talking about. So these were all natural supplements, and she gave me 2 of them to try. All right. I muscle tested them. I tested strong, so I know that they're not toxic. So if you want to try, see if something's toxic, do a YouTube search or a Google search on muscle testing, and hold a pack of cigarettes in one hand and muscle test, and hold a banana in the other hand and muscle test. And you definitely, if you're doing it right, the pack of cigarettes is going to test weak. The banana or the whole food was going to test positive. Right? So digestibility. So whatever you're taking, let's make sure it's digestible and it's bioavailable. Or did you spend $12 on something that is a placebo or ineffective? And could it make you sicker? Is there anyone regulating this? Is there any accountability for it? And phytochemicals. So, if you're serious about this, get a healthcare professional. So whether it's an NP, chiropractor, acupuncturist, somebody who holds a professional license and has access to standard process, Moss Nutrition, or a lot of these whole food, highly ethical vitamin companies, and do your research. So approaching good nutrition, nutritional adequacy, suitable to lifestyle, budget likes and dislikes. All right. So some people just fundamentally don't like fruits and vegetables. All right, fine. Find a way of getting them into your diet. So whether it's in a smoothie or a supplement, something. Right? Special diets, changes in lifestyle. So if you have you've had heart surgery or diabetic, or you have, you've poisoned yourself and you have irritable bowel syndrome or Crohn's disease, and I'll try to talk about that. If not, just pull up one of my lectures from my YouTube channel, and there'll be something on Crohn's disease or the digestive system or something. Or you know what, YouTube is a great source of stuff. I didn't have that when I was in school, so make use of it. You all have cell phones, smartphones. Jump on YouTube, all right, rather than watching whatever you might be watching. And if you're taking summer school, you should be studying anyway. There's no time for TV. Special diets, chronic illnesses, special situations, lifestyle factors. You know, like I said, if you're living in a food desert, it may be much more difficult. So just start meal planning, start thinking about what you're consuming. So functional foods, boosting nutrient intake. So if we're talking about putting iodine in salt or fortifying some of these foods, but please realize, read labels. A lot of this is very misleading. So just start reading food labels and don't believe all of them. Unless there's scientific proof, I wouldn't believe it. Probiotics. This is to reinoculate your digestive system with the microorganisms you need to digest your food. And some of these probiotics, they change the environment of the digestive tract to start being able to have a lot of these gram-negative enteric bacteria reproduce so you can digest food. If you're on one of these people that has a lot of antimicrobials or you have a lot of infections and you've wiped out your microbiome, you know, we're not going to get into the medical part of it, but you could end up with Clostridium difficile overrun in your digestive system, or a lot of, you know, it can be a pathological issue, or you have trouble with digesting because you don't have the bacteria in your gut that helps break down the fibers and starts breaking down the food. So you need these bacteria in there to start breaking down your food so it's absorbable through your microvilli and it can get through the hepatic portal vein into your liver so it can be processed. All right, I think I babbled forever, so I'm gonna process this video and I'll jump into the course and I'll see if I can dump it on my YouTube channel too, so that it's available to everyone later. Hour 17 minutes. Okay, good Lord.